Hello everyone, Sarah Brown here from Felting with Nature. I'm here today to give you a quick tutorial and some top tips when you're needle felting with templates or cookie cutters. Okay, sometimes this can be a little bit tricky even for beginners because it's quite hard to get that nice crisp shape at the side of your cookie cutters or your templates. So this is my very much work in progress at the moment. This is what I've been working on. I've been working on a green man, and as you can see, he hasn't got his eyelids yet. It's very much a work in progress, and none of these holly leaves have been needle felted down yet, but you can see that I've had to make lots of different leaves, and I'm going to have to make many more to fill the other side as well. So I thought this might be quite a good tutorial for beginners and for experienced needle felters alike, just to help you using cooking cutters. So these ones here are actually from Mum's Makery. They are my favourite ones to use. This comes in a set of 3, so we've got the smaller, the medium and the large on the holly leaves. These ones are specifically designed by the lovely Sam to actually be used in needle felting. So they're a great depth for us, which is brilliant. And they're used of a really nice plastic, made of a really nice plastic, so we can hold on to them nicely, which is really good. All of Sam's templates now come with a hole in the end as well. So if you wanted to make it flexible so that you can move your leaves or whatever it is that you're making with the templates, then there is actually a hole in the middle so you can put through some wire, which is really handy. So today I'm going to be felting, like I said, with the Mum's Makery templates. I'm going to be doing a medium holly leaf. So I've got a really nice green that's come from the felt box. It's a New Zealand carded, one of my absolute favourite fibres to use. They're brilliant to felt with, felt really quickly and really nicely. I love those. I've got my 38 gauge singular needle. Now I love the triangular needles. I know lots of people use lots of different needles. I've been felting for a very long time. I'm old school. I still go with the triangular needles. So that's my favourite, my 38 gauge there. And then inside my clover tool, again, 2 38 gauge triangular needles, just 2 in this one. I find that a lot easier to use when it's just got 2 in. If you're interested in the clover tool, it's lovely. It's a nice pen shape, which is why I like it. But I do actually have another video in my playlists just to show you how to work this tool and how to change the needles, because you don't have to use your 38 gauge triangular in there. You can use whatever you need to. Okay, so I'm going to be using that one as well. I'm going to be felting on this surface here. Underneath here is a flat mat. That's actually come from Mum's Makery as well. You can, of course, use your sponge or your 100% wool mat, whatever it is that you're using. But my suggestion would be you go for something a little bit firmer. It's really nice when doing 2D needle felting that the surface underneath is quite firm and flat. It does definitely help. This one, like I said, has come from Mum's Makery. It comes with toppers. So depending on what it is you're working on, you can change the different toppers. So this piece of felt here, when I've been doing these leaves in particular, obviously with the green, I have actually been using the green topper. But that's not very good to see when we're on YouTube. So I've just popped this cream one on for now so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. But yeah, brilliant. I love this one. Okay, so we are going to be using the medium one for this one. So we don't need these ones. Okay, so I'm just going to move my green man up slightly so we've got a little bit more room. Let's move that out of the way as well. So I've got the lovely New Zealand carded wool to use, my single 38 gauge triangular needle. Okay, I'm just going to take a tiny pinch of the fibre. I'm going to just give it a little bit of a squish in my hand so it all comes together and fold it in half, because the first thing I always do with cookie cutters is work on the corner parts. Okay, doesn't matter what sort of template it is, whether it's a leaf, a flower, an animal, I always start with the parts that are sticking out. If you want to get a really nice crisp shape, then you need to start with those bits. Okay, so single triangular needle. I'm just going to stab that into the corner. And that's the first bit. And I'm going to continue to do this with all the corner parts. Okay, so I sort of bring it together in my fingers, fold it over and back in the corner. Now, I do need to push through, obviously, because I want all these fibres to come together and push through. But I'm trying to, when I hit the mat, I'm just trying to let it sort of bounce off a bit. That's why a nice firm surface is really handy. So even though I'm concentrating on the corners, we've got these nice little fluffy bits here that are coming off from the corners, and they're really helpful because they bring everything together. So here's the next one. So into the corner. I think I could have used a bit more for that one. So not a problem. Take a bit more off, give it a squidge, stab it in. And all the fluffy bits, like I said, I'm just going to use those to help me fill in the rest of the template and bring it all together. Really helpful to bring all those little parts together. So I'm just going to keep going all the way into the corner, a few stabs to bring it in, and then the fluffy bits. I've got 3 more to do now. Down the bottom, bringing it all in. And if I've got a little bit of space, not a problem, I am going to be filling that bit in. Okay, so bring it all together, fold it over, stab it in. I'm going to go back on myself that time just to fill in that little bit in the middle. So although we are working on the corners, these little fluffy bits are helping us. Ooh, got a random colour in there. Let's get that out. I only want green. Got a little bit of white in there, I think. I don't think I got it. Ooh, out we come. Well done. So obviously, if you have got any rogue colours in there, take them out before you start stabbing it all, because it's a lot harder to get out once you've needle felted it all together. Okay, so that's my first round. I've been around all the corners and I've got a little bit filled in the middle. Now, the next bit I do is just take another little bit off, and I want to fill in the middle this time. So I want everything to attach together now. So a little bit of fluff, and I fluff it all up before it goes in. That helps it blend in together. Fluff it all up, stab it in the middle. And a little bit for down the end. Fluff it all up and stab it in the middle. Now, it will be attached a little bit to the mat, because obviously that's the nature of it. Hopefully not too much. And I've got a little top tip. My little top tip is to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay, so now I've got it all together. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Now, if it's really attached and you wiggle, 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 and it comes out, does not matter. Woo, bless him. You just have to squish it all back in again. At any point, if it comes out, doesn't matter. If you're not happy with it and it's not finished, squish it back in and go for it again. Okay, so at this point, whoop, I've got it all off the mat and I'm going to turn it over. Okay, so turning it over showed me that I've got lots of spaces at the top here where I can fill in lots more, which is fine. So if you actually hold it up against the light, that does help as well. And you want to just fill those bits in. So I could see a bit in the middle, so I'm going to fill that bit in first, but I'm also going to do the corners again if I need to. So I'm just stabbing that all down. Remember, I'm trying not to attach it to the mat, so letting it bounce off my nice flat mat. And then I could see that some of the corners needed a little bit of filling in, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this and fill it in a little bit. Remember, fluff it up before you put it in, because that really does help. You don't want to put it in all straight and well felted together, because you'll just see where you've added it. The fluffier the better. It means it will all blend in. Now I can always go back and check it at any point, just to double check that all the corners are actually filled in. So get this one as well. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And I'm holding it up again. Not too bad. I can pull these into the corners a little bit if I need to with my needle. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a felt down now. And then I can double check that everything is filled in, because I really want those nice crisp corners, especially on the holly leaf. That's what you need, isn't it? Okay, so wiggle, 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 wiggle. Oh, not bad at all. So I can still see a little bit here. So I'm going to fill that in. Just make sure it's filled in. Just remember, obviously, the more fibre you add, the thicker and thicker your template is going to get, the needle felted, whatever you're making is going to get. But there are a couple of tricks to that. The lovely Sam from Mum's Makery, who makes these templates, has a lovely trick, and that's to iron them. So use something in the middle, maybe a tea towel or something like that, and just give them a quick iron on the top, not for too long, and you'll get them nice and thin. I personally like mine to be quite thick because I want to be able to tell that they've been needle felted. However, I can see that if you were making petals or anything like that, you might want them really, really thin to make your flowers. But if you had a template of an animal or anything like that, you might not want to thin it down. You might want it nice and thick. Okay, so that's all in the corners and I'm happy with that. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yeah, I'm happy with that, and I'm turning over. Okay, so at this point now, I could switch to my multi-needle tool. Obviously it's double the stab power. It'll be less stabbing for me. But I'm just going to go around and make sure it's all together. Remember, I turned it over. Down, wiggle, 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 wiggle. I'm going to do a last check. Right, okay, I can see one little bit here that I've missed, and I think I might do one corner as well, and then that will be it. Remember, I'm not adding very much at all. It is the tiniest piece of fluff ever that if I sneeze or I breathe on it, I'd just lose it. It'd fly away. Okay, excellent. Right, so I'm going to switch to my multi-needle tool now, just to make it a little bit quicker. So I'm using my clover tool now, and I've got 2 needles in it. You can put 3 needles in it, but I prefer 2. Gives me a nice line if I need it, which is quite handy. Now what I'm going to do, every time I turn it, is go all the way around. Oh, be careful. All the way around the edges. See, that's what's nice about Sam's templates from Mum's Makery. When you hit this bit here, unless I was really going for it, I'm not going to break my needle. Whereas some of the metal cookie cutters you could do. So I've gone all the way around the edge twice, into the corners, and I'm just going to do the middle as well. Don't forget the middle. And then I'm going to wiggle, 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 wiggle. It's my top tip. Wiggle, 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 and turn it over. Now, you need to do this, I would say, depending on the size of the template and perhaps how much wool you have used, at least 10 minutes. I will do this for at least 10 minutes. And then I can take it out, I can assess the situation, see if I'm happy with the shape, and if I am, perfect. If I'm not, squish it back in again and go again, just repeating the same process all the way around the edges, making sure I go into the corners and then down the middle, because the middle needs felting as well. Okay, so wiggle, 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 and turn. So I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to do this for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I've gotten on. And hopefully you'll be able to see how crisp the shape looks compared to just stuffing it all in and going for it. You'll see that this works a little bit better to get you a nice crisp shape. Right, I'll be back in a minute. So I've been felting this one for about 10 minutes now. At one point I noticed that one of the corners didn't have enough fluff in it and it wasn't quite reaching the corners. So I just took a little bit of fluff and stabbed that down into the corner. It's usually better to do that before it gets too firm in the template so that the fibres blend nicely together. So you can always do that at any point. I also took it out at one point. I pushed it out just to see how it was going. Wasn't quite happy with the crispness of it, so I put it back in again and continued felting all the way around the corners, the middle, wiggle, 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 wiggle for about 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take it out now. Let's see how it's gone. Whoop. And there you go. Quite happy with that crispness in the corners. I can see all the corners, which is fantastic, and it definitely looks like a holly leaf to me. So I'm really pleased with that. Like I said, it took me about 10 minutes to do this medium size template. If perhaps you were using a bigger one, then you might need to use a little bit more time, or even a smaller one, a little bit less time. It depends what you are doing. Now, of course, at this point, you could decorate it if you want to. You could put veins on if they were for leaves. It's nice and firm now, so you'll be able to get a nice decoration on there. If you're doing an animal, perhaps you'd like to do the eyes or the nose or the mouth, whatever it is that you're doing, really. Okay, another top tip is to use, believe it or not, a piece of folded cardboard. So this has come from my recycling. It's just an old cereal packet that I've cut up, and I can cut it depending on whatever size I need. So to get a bit more of a finished edge, I could just pop that in the middle, grab my single needle and go around the edge to get rid of any fluff and to finish off those edges if I wanted to. This piece of cardboard is great for holding on to things, and it's going to stop you from poking yourself with the needle when you're holding on to it. So that's a great top tip just from your recycling, which is brilliant. The other top tip that I mentioned earlier is to flatten whatever you're making. So if you are making an animal, perhaps you wouldn't want to flatten it, but if you are making some leaves or some petals that are all going to go together and you'd like them to be quite flat and no thickness to them, then something on the top, maybe a tea towel, a little quick iron over the top, or even hair straighteners would flatten them down a bit, which is quite handy. Okay, so I hope that was useful to you, and I hope you can use some of those top tips. Happy felting, everyone!